on SiriusXM. Get the SiriusXM app now.
That's the sound of a crack in the ceiling found at a home inspection. But with a Realtor by your side, a newfound leak might only cause minor worries. With their expertise, a Realtor can suggest a credit at closing and even connect you to a contractor to help you shore up that leak and alleviate your worries. When it comes to cracks in your plans, the expertise of a Realtor can make all the difference. The difference between an agent and a Realtor is real. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors. That's who we are.
I thought learning a language would be too much work, but Babbel makes learning fun. J'aime Babbel.
Babbel's lessons only take 10 or 15 minutes, and in 3 weeks you can actually speak another language. Como si fuera magia.
Babbel isn't robots talking. You learn words and phrases from real native speakers. I was ready for real-life conversations in just a few weeks. So easy.
Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
The Trotwood Rams, the Fairmont Firebirds. It's the ESPN Dayton High School football game of the week. Don't miss the biggest game in the Miami Valley this Friday night at 7 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio and online at wingam.com.
All right, everybody, welcome in. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, live here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. I'm Justin Kinner. He's Kev Nash. Mr. Nash, welcome.
What up, dog?
What up? Hey, move to your left just a tad. That way we're just all in line with the cameras. There we go. That way my ugly mug is there we go, just flashing bright for everyone to interact with. But I hope everyone's had a great day. We're off and rolling. Got a jam-packed 3-hour show coming your way. Urban Meyer, I'm not saying he has not been done any media hits since the debacle that happened in Jacksonville, but he did make a stop on the Dan Dockich's show on Outkick earlier this afternoon, and he had a lot of interesting things to say about the Buckeyes and Ryan Day, how Ohio State stacks up with Alabama as far as being on Alabama's level. Interesting stuff there. He talks about his thoughts on NIL, and plus he was asked a question from Dan Dockich regarding, when you think about the fact that ESPN is no longer going to be carrying Ohio State games after this season, and at least until the college football playoff, of course, does that have an impact on recruiting? Urban's comments really surprised me. We'll talk about those coming up around the corner. Kev Nash and I will also give you our NFL bold predictions for the upcoming 2022 season. Some of those include Baker Mayfield and the Panthers. Some involve the Bengals. Some involve the Packers and the Vikings. It's across the board. You have our bold predictions. We're going to find out some of your bold predictions as well. But I wanted to open up with this, Kev. Big news out of the NFL today, I guess. It's not really big news. You would think it was big news with the way that social media reacted today. But it involves the Cincinnati Bengals and a particular holdout that could have had an impact as far as production for the Bengals defense this season. Jesse Bates, he announced earlier today, or the Bengals announced earlier today, Kev, that Jesse Bates has signed his franchise tag and locks him into a salary of $12.91 million for all of the 2022 season. So as we sit here right now, we've been waiting to find out, of course, about whether or not Jesse Bates would hold out, whether he would, opt out, trying to fight to get to his contract extension. He does not get it. He will report, and he will report on the, as we just talked about, on that franchise tag. Look, bottom line is I've seen all today on social media. Oh, man, what a leader. Just we always knew. Look, we knew he was going to be there for the guys. He was going to be there for his teammates. He wasn't going to let his team down. Folks, there's a list of reasons why he showed up. And the first 12.91 million reasons on that list all have a dollar sign in front of it, and that's it. He didn't, I'm not saying he doesn't care about his teammates or doesn't care about winning, but stop doing this thing where we're propelling these guys into Superman, super leader. Let's run through a brick wall for these guys, because at the same time, he wasn't running through brick walls for anybody else. It was good business, but can we stop doing this thing where we pretend that, man, what a leader. Man, he had a chance to fight for a contract extension, and instead he's putting winning first. No, he's putting $12.91 million first, because if he doesn't play, he gets $0. If he plays, he gets $12.91 million. Look, I'm getting prepared for the season, and I could just tell that the Bengals fans, you're just doing these weird things where you just worship every little tiny thing that these dudes do, all while when other guys on other teams do the exact same thing, you find ways to criticize them for. Not going to allow that here. Jesse Bates is a great teammate. I get all that stuff, but stop acting like he put the team first in this situation. He was going for him first. He should have. The team said, no, we're going to put us first. It was a staring contest. The team won. The Cincinnati Bengals won. Jesse Bates is going to play his final season in Cincinnati coming up, and hopefully it's at a level enough to complement the likes of Dax Hill and others to propel the defense to a level that we saw from them in the playoff, because this was a very average defense during the regular season last year. I'm interested, Kev, to see where they pick up, how they pick up from last year. Are they that same regular season average defense that they were a year ago? Or are they that dominant defense that we saw with the pass rush of Hendrickson and obviously, the compliments of Lawson and others, and then obviously the great Super Bowl run that Bates had? At the end of the day, it's just going to come down to which defense do the Bengals have. Is it the regular season defense from last year or the playoffs? Bottom line is, good for him, good for showing up to camp. This is great for the Bengals. That's all I got to say.
Smart move by Jesse Bates. Let's go ahead and cash that almost $13 million, because we've seen the contract that Derwin James got. We saw the contract that Micah Fitzpatrick got, and the Bengals aren't going to be willing to do that. They're not going to give up that type of money, especially right now, especially with a quarterback they're about to have to pay, a wide receiver they're going to get ready to pay, and everything like that. So him cashing in on this money is pretty much what most rational people thought was going to happen. He wasn't going to let what do they do, like the average salary of the 10 highest paid at that position. He wasn't going to let that walk out the door, because guess what? He's fighting for a big contract. He's fighting for money. So why would he let that type of money walk out the door? I knew he was going to sign. I don't necessarily believe that, oh man, he's out here doing this for the team. Like, he's doing it for both. He's doing it for himself, because he should be taking care of himself first. And then he's doing it because, all right, man, we got a pretty good team. We just played in the Super Bowl. All things considered, we got better on the offensive line. We would imagine that Joe Burrow would get better. We would imagine Jamar Chase and T. Higgins would get better. We'd imagine all the defensive guys would get better. So not only do we have a chance to go back to the Super Bowl and potentially win it, but I just got paid too. So, yeah. And then guess what? Next year, I'm going to be a free agent. So for me, this is much ado about nothing, because I knew he was going to sign, because I can't remember the last guy who said they weren't going to sign a franchise tag. Was Le'Veon Bell?
I was just going to say, wasn't that your dude with Le'Veon? But like at that time,
I think
Le'Veon had more leverage at that time. Like, the Steelers, give kudos to them. I didn't think that they were going to blink. I thought that Le'Veon would win that one. I thought as far as this situation is concerned, I did not think that he had, and Jesse Bates I'm talking about here, Jesse Bates had zero leverage here. Like, I don't think he had any leverage whatsoever in this situation. I thought the Steelers had the leverage when it came to Le'Veon, I thought Le'Veon Bell had the leverage back when he was doing the holdout against the Steelers, because he was more of an important piece to whether or not they could win a Super Bowl or not. The Bengals could win a Super Bowl without Jesse Bates. He just, of course, gives them a lot better chance.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is good for the Bengals. This is good for Jesse Bates. This is bad for anybody in the AFC North, because he's a real good football player.
We good. We good. I mean, Baker Mayfield torched that defense last year. I'm just saying, we good.
Oh, you're going to, you're in regular season form.
I mean, yeah, I'm just saying. But no, I just saw the reactions today, and by the way, and look, and at the end of the day, Jesse Bates is a great leader. He is a great teammate, but that's not what went into the decision making for today. It's just that he has to work to get that extension one way or another, and it's one of those things where, okay, if he sits out all of this year, then hits the free agent market next year, I highly doubt he gets that money that he's thinking that he's going to get, unless he goes out there, has another great season for the Bengals, and maybe is a part of another great magical run deep into the playoffs, or maybe gets back to the Super Bowl, maybe wins the Super Bowl. Bottom line is I think we know it's his last year in Cincinnati coming up. He's not just playing for this season to help the Bengals win a Super Bowl, but he's playing to help, the perception of who he is, so that he can go get that big bag of money next offseason, which we know he will get. I'm just pretty confident it will not be in Cincinnati. Any chance you think he's is this the last season that we'll see Jesse Bates as a Bengal?
Yeah, this last season he's going to be with the Bengals. And, to be perfectly honest, it's probably for the best for both parties involved. Jesse Bates is a good football player. He deserves to get paid. So if he goes to someone else and gets paid, guess what the Cincinnati Bengals get? They get comp picks. So you get to replenish your draft picks and everything like that if he goes to, I don't know, the Titans or something like that. So it is what it is. I know that people think that, oh man, you draft these players, you got to keep them with you forever, but it just doesn't work like that. Everybody that you draft isn't going to stick around for multiple seasons. Like, you get their contract, and I'm dealing with this with the Pittsburgh Steelers. You look at a guy like Devin Bush, who balled out his rookie year, had a big injury his second year. Getting back his third year, he was not the player he was his rookie year and everything like that. And they declined to pick up his fifth year option because, hey, man, we got to see what happens. So chances are Devin Bush probably won't be with the Steelers. Then you go look at what's going on with the Cleveland Browns. They gave Kareem Hunt another chance in the NFL after the situation that happened with him when he was with the Kansas City Chiefs. Chances are he won't be with the Cleveland Browns the following year. That's the league, man. That's the league. We can go to every single team in the NFL and point out one guy that, oh, man, he's a good player for them. And, oh, man, he's not going to be with them the following year. It is what it is.
And it all comes down to how the front office is going to prioritize their funds. And that's not even up for debates anymore. That's not even a secret anymore. Some teams try to balance it, Kev, like, oh, we'll sprinkle a little on this side of the ball, some on this side. The Bengals are basically letting you know every dollar we have is going to go into keeping T. Higgins, keep Jamar Chase, keep Joe Burrow, which I do not think will happen, by the way. I think that it'll be Joe Burrow and one of those two. I do not think that triplet, the triplets right there are going to be a long-term thing in Cincinnati, and it's most likely T. Higgins leaving, but it will be interesting to see how that pans out. But the Bengals, again, I've always said this. It's not as if they, when I see fans on social media, I can't believe the Bengals would just let him go. I can't believe they wouldn't, pay him. He's been great. The Bengals are not telling you that they don't think he's great or that they don't value who he is as a player, but they don't financially prioritize his position. It doesn't matter if Jesse Bates is the best safety in the history of the NFL. Right now, with what's going on, having to pay Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase as the market has shifted, especially in the wide receiver market, that has totally made their decision kind of easy, Kev, because before it was, well, maybe we could find a way to keep the wide receivers in. Now that the wide receiver market has shifted as heavy as it has and as high as it has, now the Bengals are like, well, the choice is simple. We have to pay Jamar and T and Burrow to continue with the trend of the NFL right now being so offensively heavy, and they'll take their chances in the draft. And they've done very well. They drafted Bates and developed him, and all signs point towards Dax Hill being really, really good as well. He's had quite a preseason.
Look at you giving the Michigan guy some love.
No, but he has. He's looked really good.
Yes.
What do you say to those who say, well, no, Bates didn't come back for the money. He came back because he saw that Dax Hill was playing really well. And I'm like, that's cute too. It's adorable. Dax Hill's playing well. But as we talked about yesterday, it's preseason. I don't put any stock into how people look in preseason, for two reasons. One, if you look bad in preseason, you could say, well, that's really alarming because you look bad against other teams' second and third string guys. Like last year, Jamar Chase had a horrible preseason. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed you being able to act like I was right about the Jamar Chase thing in Cincinnati because I was like, told you. And then, of course, he just pops off, for the season, and was one of the most dominating rookie season performances out there. And then others have good preseason performances and end up being bad in the regular season. So I don't put any stock into what we've seen from Dax Hill so far. All reports indicate that he's going to, he's playing at a high level. We won't know till the regular season gets here. Bottom line is 12.3 million reasons why Jesse Bates decided to come back and sign that, and will play this upcoming season, and it all has dollar signs in front of it. Nothing more, nothing less. Don't overcomplicate it.
The reason I put some stock into the way Dax Hill is playing is because this is exactly how he played at Michigan. He not only played corner, he played the nickel, he played the safety. Like, they're using him all over the field.
Yep.
And for a rookie to be able to comprehend all that type of stuff already so early is a good thing for the Cincinnati Bengals. So, let's just say, hey, man, there's a certain cornerback out there that went to Ohio State that isn't playing so great. Maybe we can pop Dax Hill in that spot. Oh, he doesn't sign the free agent tag. Oh, we can pop him at the safety spot. Oh, let's say, for instance, they just need him to return kicks. He can do that too because he did all that in Michigan, and right now he's doing that for the Cincinnati Bengals. So it's kudos to Dax Hill for accepting the challenge and balling, to be perfectly honest. He's balling early. Obviously, it's preseason, but the things that he's been doing in camp that we've been reading about is good too.
Yeah, and no doubt about that. I just mean as far as like, I don't care if Dax Hill's looked like the best rookie secondary in the history of the world. I don't think that was a motivating factor for Jesse Bates.
Oh, no.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think it has to do everything with, okay, I played my cards. They're not willing to budge. Let me go ahead and get this basically $13 million. And show up to camp. I got about 3 weeks before the season kicks off. Let me go ahead and get reacclimated and go hit the ground running and see what I can do this season.
518-1410. That's the number to call in, Bengals fans. Thoughts on, of course, Jesse Bates signing. Will now be Cincinnati playing for the Bengals this upcoming season. But again, signing the franchise tag will make $12.91 million here in the 2022 season, and will most likely become a free agent after this year and will no longer be a Bengal. But thoughts on what this means for the Bengals in 2022 and onward I think it's a popular take right now that this is going to be it. This will be the final season of Jesse Bates in the Bengals jersey. But your thoughts on what this means for the upcoming season? 518-1410. That's the number to call and jump in on the combo. We'll step away for a few minutes, and when we come back, Urban Meyer made a rare appearance since being fired by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Of course, Urban Meyer recently announced as he'll be one of the members of course, the Big Noon Kickoff pregame show. I think that was one of the worst kept media secrets out there. I think we all figured that was going to be the case, but Urban Meyer, of course, had some fascinating takes, of course, on the direction of name, image, and likeness in college athletics. He commented about the job Ryan Day has done with the Buckeyes and was asked by Dan Dockage, are the Buckeyes on Alabama's level? He responded and explained why that is the case. He also explained why he thinks the college football playoff will expand sooner rather than later. 518-1410. We'll talk Bengals, college football. Anything on your mind? We'll be back in just a few moments.
If you're looking to obtain a quality education at a low price, look no further than Clark State. With over 160 degrees and certificates available, Clark State has a path for you to reach your goals. Our tuition rates are one of the lowest in Ohio, so getting that degree is easier than ever without breaking the bank. For more information about Clark State, visit us at www.clarkstate.edu.
If you need new roofing, siding, or gutters, skylights, or patio enclosures, if you're a homeowner or business and need someone you can trust, don't take a chance. Enhance with Lance. Lance Roofing and Siding in Fairborn has been satisfying customers since 1993 and hold an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Lance Roofing and Siding, 8460 Dayton Springfield Road in Fairborn. Call for a free estimate at 864-2722. That's 864-2722 or online at lanceroofing.com.
Hams Oil, the #1 in synthetic lubricants since 1972. The Colonel here for Homestead Feed and Supply. Whether it's motorcycles, small engine, diesel, or high-performance gasoline, we got it. Come see us, Homestead Feed and Supply, 1833 North Dayton Lakeview Road, New Carlisle.
Hey, here to tell you about my friends at Cordell Transportation. They're now hiring Class A CDL drivers and offering a $5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right, a $5,000 sign-on bonus. Home daily, dedicated lanes, and no-touch freight. Brand new equipment as well. Medical, dental, vision, and company-paid life insurance. Apply online at CordellTransportation.com. Cordell Transportation, driven to succeed.
Need a U.S. passport? We can help. Hi, this is Mike Foley, your Montgomery County Clerk of Courts. Visit one of our convenient auto title locations in Huber Heights, Clayton, downtown, Moraine, and Centerville. Make us your first destination before you travel abroad. No appointments ever needed. We do passports.com for more info.
Do you owe the IRS $8,000 or more? Are you a few years behind in filing? Are you going through an audit and have no idea what to do? You need an ally. Fast, because the IRS is ramping up its collection tactics again. Allies Tax Relief Negotiators can protect you from all IRS collections, but you have to call them today. Their team of enrolled agents, tax attorneys, and CPAs are your allies to fixing all of your tax problems. Here's Thomas, a thankful client of Allies Tax Relief.
I owed the IRS $46,000 and my wages were about to get garnished. I knew I needed an ally, so I called Allies Tax Relief. They stopped the IRS from taking money out of my paycheck and fixed everything. I walked away paying the IRS next to nothing. Thank you, Allies Tax Relief.
Take the first steps to getting the IRS off your back. Call Allies Tax Relief for a free consultation. 800-957-0325. That's 800-957-0325. 800-957-0325.
With Discover, you can redeem your rewards for cash in any amount at any time. Learn more at discover.com/redeem rewards. Terms apply.
How do you make the most of your land? Shaw does it behind the wheel of a John Deere 1025R compact tractor.
Shaw stands for skilled hands at work.
And he lives up to the name as he uses his versatile tractor to make
the earth take the shape that I wanted to take.
And the Allens fire up their John Deere 3032E compact tractor to
grow about 9 acres of flowers.
Because the beauty of having land is deciding how to make it yours. There are millions of ways to make the most of your land. Learn how to make the most of yours at Deere.com. Nothing runs like a Deere.
The roar of our engines, the pump of our heartbeats, the pedal to our metal, the sparks that ignite us, the pistons that push us, the passions that drive us. From the feelings that move us to the places that pull us on the roads that unite us. With nearly 6,000 stores and over 17,000 auto care centers, Napa has America's largest network of parts and care, here to keep you firing on all cylinders.
When you bundle your renters and auto insurance with Progressive, you could save money, but it doesn't cover any terrible memories living rent-free in your head.
Hey, just wanted to remind you of that time your kicker missed the extra point and lost the game. Even though he literally never missed an extra point, he chose this playoff game to miss. Yeah, I just noticed you hadn't thought about that in a bit. Wouldn't want you to miss, thinking about it.
Sorry, we can't save you from that memory, but we could save you money bundling your renters and auto insurance with Progressive. Coverage from Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and third-party insurers. Renters insurance and bundle discount not available in all states or situations.
Oh, are you seeing these readings? This is incredible.
Short-staffed, Marco's climate research facility is in the eye of the storm. The atmospheric pressure to find more weather specialists is mounting.
Man, this is going to be a big job. We're going to need a bigger team.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
The snap, the hold, the kick, and it's blocked. The kick is blocked. The ball is live, and the ball is loose, and Fairmont comes away with it. Running up the far right sideline, the crowd is absolutely going crazy here, and that's going to be our first score of the night. Not the Alternites, but the Fairmont Firebirds strike first.
The Miami Valley's biggest games. It's the ESPN Dayton High School Football Game of the Week. Don't miss the excitement every Friday night, right here on 1410 ESPN Radio.
This coming up Friday night, it's week 2 of the OHSAA high school football season and week 2 of our ESPN Dayton high school football game of the week. The Trotwood Rams, the Fairmont Firebirds. Those are the two teams in the number 1 matchup in the Miami Valley that we will be covering and bringing to you on 1410 WING, 7 o'clock to kick off. And of course, you can catch high school football every Friday night throughout the 2022 season right here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. I'm Justin Kinner. He's Kev Nash. Excited to be hanging out with you here this afternoon. And coming up here around the corner, I do want to get into these Urban Meyer comments that he made, involving the Buckeyes, name, image, and likeness, and of course some other big headlines around college athletics at this point. But the one thing I found most fascinating about his stop is that it is the first time that I've come across an interview that he has done since, of course, being let go by the Jacksonville Jaguars. As we all know, that NFL stop did not go so hot, but nonetheless, we'll get into that around the corner. We opened up the show with, of course, talking about the fact that Jesse Bates signed the franchise tag and his holdout is officially over. He reported to camp earlier today for the Cincinnati Bengals. That's great for the Bengals, and it's great for him. People thought I was taking a shot at him earlier when I was taking a shot at the fans, because some of you Bengals fans annoy the living hell out of me. I sit there and say, oh man, he's such a leader. That's why he came out of, that's why he decided to end the holdout and put the team first. And no, that's not why he did it. He did it because if he didn't do it, he would make $0 this upcoming season. You know what he makes if he signs it? And he did. He will make $12.91 million. There are $12.91 million reasons why he signed that contract, and that's it. But it doesn't mean that if he hadn't, that he's a bad teammate or didn't care about the team. I'm just saying, stop trying to position everything as, oh, he did it because of the team. He did it because the team needs him, and he put the team's needs first. No, he did not. But he did nothing wrong at the same time. But just these crazy, weird, fan narratives that you guys create that make no damn sense is just beyond me. Last week, Kev, I tweeted out that in the world of sports, of course, It amazes me that when things are said, how Twitter takes it, runs with it, and makes it a big deal. Or they create these narratives that I don't believe to be true. For instance, me and you deferred on this, but a couple weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, John Calipari, head coach of the Kentucky men's basketball program, of course, said that, well, they're a basketball school. I thought everyone knew that. That led to a lot of controversy. And of course, the Kentucky football fans, they exist. They were upset. How could you say that? It's a basketball school. Twitter took something that I thought was just kind of, understood and made it a big deal. Aaron Rodgers told media that, you know what? Our wide receivers, we need to do a better job of catching the football. Aaron Rodgers, I can't believe you would put your wide receivers on blast like that. I mean, you're such a bad teammate. I can't believe you're calling out your teammates like that. I mean, my goodness, you're supposed to be lifting them up, not throwing them under the bus. Give me a break. He was asked about some of the struggles that the Packers have had in the preseason, and he simply said, we got to do a better job. He was asked specifically about the wide receivers and what they need to do to get better. Specifically said, we need to start getting better in our route running and doing a better job of catching the football. That is a common sense answer that I and everyone out there understood, and yet we still took it and turned it into this Twitter controversy. Myles Garrett earlier today was asked about the matchup in week 1 between the Browns and the Panthers. Well, now social media blowing up today because Myles Garrett said that facing Baker Mayfield, that it's not a rivalry. How can you say that? It's Baker Mayfield against the Cleveland Browns. It's not a rivalry. Can we stop doing these weird things that we love to do on social media where we create these fake narratives for fake outrage? He said nothing wrong. Myles Garrett on facing Baker Mayfield in week 1, he says there's no rivalry there. Myles Garrett is quoted, and this is an article from NFLnetwork.com, from NFL.com, Nick Shook, from Around the NFL writer. This is a quote from the article that Myles Garrett says about Baker Mayfield. He's my former teammate, but there's no rivalry there between me and him. And there's no rivalry there between the Panthers and the Browns, Garrett said on Mayfield on this past Tuesday, or today, I should say. Yes, he was here, but that doesn't mean I have an added sense of urgency to get to him. I want to play my best, and whatever's in the cards, that's what's in it for me. But if I can help my team win, if I could put them in the best position to win, I'm going to do that. That wasn't a fake coach speak answer. That's just common sense. First of all, the Panthers and the Browns, I don't think anyone has ever thought, man, that's one of the best rivalries in the NFL. Man, you get your popcorn ready. I mean, Baker Mayfield just enhances the rivalry, but man, I don't want to miss the Browns and the Panthers. This is actually one of the easier week 1 matchups that the Browns have had in quite some time. So no, there's no rivalry here. The Browns and the Panthers, there's nothing involved there. The only thing I think about between the Browns and the Panthers is the fact that the Browns had Jake Delhomme at one point. There is no rivalry there. And there's no rivalry between Baker and the Browns. There's a storyline there, but there's no rivalry. I don't know why. I mean, I know why, because it's social media and whatever. But Kev, your thoughts again, just people trying to, they're confused as to why Myles Garrett would say that this isn't a rivalry matchup between Baker Mayfield and the Browns and the Panthers and the Browns. I bore you. You sound like the rest of our listeners right now.
Like that's what I think about it. Like, come on, man. Like a rivalry?
Unreal.
A rivalry? The Browns Bengals rivalry.
Yep.
Browns Steelers rivalry. Steelers Ravens rivalry. Packers Bears rivalry. Cowboys anybody rivalry. The Panthers.
Do the Panthers have a rival?
Falcons. Because of proximity.
Yeah.
But like, come on, man. Like, just call it what it is. Hey, man, he's the former quarterback. He's playing you guys week 1. That's a storyline. It's very interesting. Everybody's interested. But to call it a rivalry is silly. Like, hey, man, yeah, it's interesting. It's a selling point. It's going to have a lot of eyeballs on the TV set for that reason and that reason alone. If Baker Mayfield would have went to the Seahawks instead, this would be an afterthought game outside of the fact that Deshaun Watson isn't playing. This reason that anybody's even talking about this game is because Baker Mayfield is the starting quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. But rivalry, give me a break.
No, I mean, like, so the Broncos and the Seahawks, why are, is that a rivalry just because Russell Wilson will be going up against his former team as well? Like, if you want to talk to me about again, Baker versus Cleveland, that's intriguing. I'm interested. I can't wait to watch that aspect. Even if I wasn't a Browns fan, I would be intrigued by what Baker Mayfield's going to do against his old team or what his old team's going to do against him. I mean, the Panthers' offensive line is not great. Baker, who's been known to throw a lot of interceptions or been known to play chaotic at times, doesn't play well under pressure. Well, there's a recipe for disaster going up against this Browns defensive line, and then the great secondary with Ward and everyone. So bottom line is there's a lot of reasons to watch this game, but to sit there and say it's a rivalry, no, I agree with Myles Garrett. I thought it was a good answer that he gave on his end. Makes a lot of sense. All right, it's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash right here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. How about this? We'll stay in the NFL, Kev, for a moment. Former Ohio State Buckeye Chase Young. The Washington Commanders have moved him to the PUP list. The defensive end will be out for at least the first 4 games. Again, keep in mind, Young opened up camp on the active PUP list after tearing his right ACL and MCL in a November 14th game against the Buccaneers last season. He underwent reconstructive surgery, lengthening his recovery time. Look, so early into his career, you hate to see him take that recovery surgery so early in his career, but I think that's the time to do it. Hey, early in my career, I have a lot of great football still left ahead of me. Let's just get this out of the way and make sure that this does not become a reoccurring thing or something we have to be worried about in the back of my mind.
Right.
But again, Chase Young has showed a lot of promise. I mean, he had looked, from just physically imposing on the NFL field. He was physically imposing on the college football field, but man, in the NFL still, he didn't come in with the boy body that had to grow into a man body. He came in with the man body and was intimidating against other chiseled NFL vets. Chase Young's going to have a great NFL career. I'm excited to see him get back out there.
A wise man once called him a werewolf, and that's exactly what he is, coming off that edge. I mean, he caused a lot of havoc, obviously playing with the Buckeyes, but he did the same thing earlier in his career with the Commanders. Went to the playoffs as a rookie and everything like that. Obviously tore up his knee last season. You just want him to bounce back. You just want him to bounce back, not only because he's a Buckeye, but because we want to watch some entertaining football players do cool things. And he does a lot of cool things getting after the quarterback. And if I'm a Commanders fan, like, that defensive line is the strength of their team. Like, that's how they win football games, because they're not only great against the run, but they're great against the pass. At that defensive line, man. So you got to get him back and got to get him back healthy. You don't need to rush him back, because obviously he's just so early in his career. Like, you don't want to rush anything for him to have any further setbacks. So take your time. No rush.
All right. And I know this is, whatever. We're going to stick to sports when it comes to this particular conversation, but I thought this headline was interesting, because I guess it came out today that the Dallas Cowboys, again, who, they're valued at $8 billion.
Cha-ching.
All right. $8 billion is what they are worth today. Donald Trump almost bought the Dallas Cowboys back in 1983 for $50 million. He would go on to say that, "I feel sorry for the poor guy who ends up buying the Dallas Cowboys. He'll be known to the world as a loser." This was Donald Trump after passing up on buying the Cowboys. This is not a political conversation. This is simply just an interesting, that Twitter account, the Freezing Cold Takes.
Yeah.
This would be a freezing cold take. I know some of you are saying, well, Jerry Jones is a loser. Well, he's one of the richest men in the world. He's the richest NFL owner, 3-time Super Bowl winner. I don't think Jerry Jones is a loser. He's a character. He's an interesting feller. But a loser, I don't think so much. But forget the fact that it's Donald Trump related. It doesn't matter who was ever in this position to buy the Cowboys back in 83, for $50 million. And now the franchise is worth $8 billion with a B. Woofa. But
Jerry Jones making a good investment. Who would have thought?
I mean, it was first the team, then Tony Romo. Great investments all around. All right, it's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Let's now talk a little Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer on the Dan Dockett show earlier today had a lot of great things to say about Ryan Day and the Buckeyes. The Buckeyes, are they on the same level of Alabama? Alabama had headline today, too. We'll talk about that with Nick Saban. But a lot of good stuff from Urban Meyer. We'll get to that next.
Herbs.
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home. For all the music News, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
Hello, it's John Kozik, founder and president of TurboTrack Realty, and I buy real estate as is, fast for cash. Give us a call today for an all-cash offer at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000. I buy inherited properties, vacant homes, rentals, commercial.
Thinking about gas mileage. An oil change with quality oil like Pennzoil Platinum Full Synthetic can help your engine get more out of every mile. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP Extended Life Oil Filter for only $35.99. Get what you need for better fuel efficiency at any of our 6,200 stores or on AutoZone.com.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Did you get the Clement Horizon clean last night? I don't want another barnacle incident. Where's Ivan?
Kiki's head of docking operations just jumped ship.
What do you mean he's sailing around the world?
She needs a new marina manager to help keep her head above water.
Yeah, the tide's perfect, but we are slammed.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, beat the largest timeshare company in federal court and has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-897-4400. That's 800-897-4400.
At McAfee, they're more than just an air temperature company. They're an air quality company. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
The Fairmont Firebirds kicked off the season with a huge rivalry win in the Battle of Kettering over the Alter Knights. Don't miss this Friday night as the Firebirds look to keep the momentum going against star quarterback Timothy Carpenter and the Trotwood Rams. It's the ESPN Dayton High School Football Game of the Week this Friday night at 7 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio and online at wingam.com.
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash live here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. Kev Nash, it was announced the other day that Urban Meyer will be added to, the course, the Big Noon Kickoff pregame show. I don't think that's really a shock to anybody, but is it a shock? I know that obviously his reputation took quite the hit. I mean, it's taken a few jabs over the years, but it took a major hit after things did not go as smooth as well, I don't think anyone anticipated it to go smooth, but it went, it got bumpy a lot faster than what even the biggest critics out there expected it to. You surprised that Fox jumped on him so fast?
Not at all, man. He moves the needle. People are going to be tuning in because they love him or they hate him. And that's the role that personality is supposed to have. They're supposed to be able to move the needle. We talk about this all the time. Like, as much as both of us actually dislike Skip Bayless, guess what? We still tune in and listen to his hot takes. People don't like Stephen A. Smith, but guess what? When he just returned from a vacation on ESPN, guess what? The ratings went through the roof on his return. So guys like that move the needle, and they move people to watch and have a reaction. So I'm absolutely not surprised at all that they signed it back up.
Plus, things are so cutthroat right now in these media rights deals with these conferences and everything. And you know what's interesting? So earlier today, Urban Meyer was on Dan Dockich's "Don't At Me," which is I think it's a YouTube and a social media live show with Dan Dockich through his new home Outkick. And Urban Meyer, by the way, when you could listen to a lot of people talk college football, but when he speaks, like, people hang on every word, whether it's to find something to criticize or just because they truly value everything that he says. I think he's a brilliant football mind. I don't think anyone's ever argued that. I think that this is more of his role. Hopefully he could settle into this and maximize this opportunity. And maybe as the years go on, kind of forget about it. Not completely forget, but people, his biggest critics, kind of forget about the fiasco that was him coaching, especially in the latter years. So I think he's going to be great. But earlier today on again with the Dan Dockich "Don't At Me," through Outkick, which is a social media show, Dan Dockich had asked him specifically about the Big Ten's new media rights deal and the fact that they, they're no longer going to be on ESPN moving forward. It's specifically going to be on NBC, Fox, CBS, and that type of ordeal, which is great. You have multiple networks. That's great for the conference, but was that good for Ohio State? And we know how strong of a value that was as far as the dollar's concerned, but what about from a recruiting standpoint? Thought it was an interesting question from Dan Dockich. He passed along to Urban Meyer. Is the fact that Ohio State and the Big Ten not going to have Ohio State games on, and any Big Ten games on ESPN, will that impact recruiting? Here's Urban Meyer earlier today on Dan Dockich's "Don't At Me" through Outkick.
I think it is. I think we'll see what happens. I think that everybody has to take care of its own, and that's the first reaction I had, is that SEC owns or the ESPN basically owns or runs the SEC, or very involved in the SEC and ACC. Will that hurt the Pac-12, Big 12, and Big 10? It's supposed to not, but I can't imagine how it will not, because they have bills to pay as well. So that's going to be very interesting. I know one thing, Fox is all in on this Big 10 now, all in. And they're committed to this. This is, you have UCLA and USC joining the conference. There's a lot of people out there that feel that within 5 years, it's going to be Fox and the SEC, or Fox and the ESPN, Big Ten and SEC, and then other teams join it in.
Kev, again, right off the bat, you heard him when he was asked specifically, do you think that'll impact recruiting for the Big Ten?
I think it is. I think we'll see what happens.
Saying, I think it is. Of course, he goes on to talk about not just the impact it'll have on recruiting, but the impact it's going to have on the alignment moving forward. And it kind of worried too with how much ESPN invests into its product, which is what you and many others have kind of questioned about. Okay, how much will this have an impact on, the behind the scenes movement of the college football playoff, the people that are put in position there? Will there be a bias? It's interesting, Urban saying that without saying it. What was your takeaway of Urban's response there about not just the impact of the media rights deal on the perception of the conferences, but from a recruiting standpoint as well?
Totally disagree with him from the recruiting aspect, because if Fox is doing what they're supposed to be doing, guess what? Ohio State's going to be plastered on every TV across the nation as well, just like they were when they are part of ESPN and everything like that. So if everything goes the way Fox is planning it to, they're going to be just as big as ESPN. That's why they got into this. This is why they went after the Big Ten. We look at the Big Ten, and obviously us being Buckeye fans, we're going to be rooting for Brutus and all the Buckeyes and everything like that. But the Big Ten has huge universities. We're talking about Ohio State. We're talking about Michigan University. We're talking about Illinois. Like, these schools are mammoth. They are humongous. Like, okay, you and I, we went to Wright State. Obviously, Wright State's a relatively small school. I was recently in Columbus over the weekend. We rode down High Street. It seemed like the school just kept going and going and going and going and going. Like, these places are huge. So when you have huge universities like that, you have huge alumni bases. So if Fox is doing what they're supposed to be doing, and everything says that they are, because they just wrote a big fat check, Ohio State and every other Big Ten team will be perfectly fine in recruiting because they're going to be plastered everywhere, and that's not going to affect them. The only thing that I agree with Herb was saying is, yeah, there's going to be a slant to the talking heads because they have a property on their network that they're going to be bigging up. Remember back when hockey went away from ESPN, their contract ended with hockey? No more hockey talk. No more hockey talk at all. And then when hockey came back to ESPN on ESPN Plus, look who's back talking hockey every night on ESPN. They get a segment. So when you don't have a property on your network, you don't need to talk about it as much as anymore because, hey, man, we don't have anything to pub and anything to push and everything like that. So just same thing with the WNBA. WNBA playoffs are on ESPN networks. They're pumping it left and right. Not a ton of WNBA regular seasons on ESPN, but the playoffs are. So guess what? They're pumping WNBA playoffs all the time. So when you have a property, you're going to pump it up. But as far as recruiting, I don't think it's going to have an effect at all.
Yeah, recruiting, I thought that was kind of strange, mainly because of the standpoint that, like, look, I think that if you win, you're going to be on any look, and that's the bottom line too, is yes, the Big Ten does not have a contract with ESPN moving forward, and there won't be any Big Ten games on ESPN moving forward. But there will be Ohio State and USC and some of these other big programs when they get to the college football playoff. They will be playing on ABC and these ESPN networks, of course, when they have the college football playoff, when they have those ones, of course. But the bottom line is I think we put too much. The college football playoff committee has power. Yes, ESPN has power, but Fox has the power as well to push their narrative, and they do it as well.
Right.
This is why I don't get mad when people say, "Oh, ESPN, that they're biased. They're biased. They're only telling you this because they're in bed with so and so." Why do you have a problem with that? And the reason I ask that is because, for one, I don't believe that's necessarily the case, or at least I don't believe it's as much the case as people try to make it out to be. But I will say, when Fox does it, how come if Fox says Ohio State's the greatest thing since sliced bread, they're credible?
We are.
Is it because they're telling you what you want to hear? Because I think that's what it comes down to. I don't think that a network telling you that the SEC is the best conference, I don't think that that's a homer take. I don't think that that is them kind of boiling up some home cooking there because, we have the SEC on our network. When ESPN talks a lot of SEC moving forward, it's going to be because that's the best conference. They have the best storylines. They have the best coaches. They have, arguably the best players. When you look at from all the conferences, how many of these players end up making it to the NFL? It's the SEC. That's why I've always pushed back on the narrative that, SEC and ESPN, they're only talking about it because they're in bed together. That's not the case. If the ACC, and the ACC is proof, ESPN never props up the ACC. Outside of Clemson, no, the ACC, they have never once tried to make, trying to make poo smell good. All right. The ACC is garbage. Can you think of an example of the time that the ACC was propped up? And don't say, how about Clemson when they played nobody a few years ago and they got into the college football play? Clemson is one of the strongest brands in all of college football, regardless of the conference affiliation. Ohio State, not being fully affiliated with ESPN, they got propped up on many occasions. There's been a lot of times that rules or at least some kind of procedures have been bent to be able to get them in a better position to be represented in the big stage of college athletics. I just don't buy in to the narrative that, ESPN's going to dominate the college football playoff and keep the Big Ten and a lot of these teams out. That is not the case. And I definitely agree, Kev, it's not impacting recruiting. Alabama didn't need help recruiting. They had, they've established themselves as a power. Ohio State, maybe some of the weaker teams, but that's just going to be how they're positioned. But if you win, you're fine. You're taken care of.
Right. Yeah. And that's always been my thought process about a lot of these things. I mean, we're Ohio State fans. We have just about every advantage in the world. From the brand, from having cool uniforms to being involved with Nike, that relationship, like we get all the breaks. We get a ton of breaks. So if we get knocked down a peg, we can't sit here and act like, oh man, we're the little guy. No, we're not. We're a big dog. Like it just is what it is, man. And we get a ton of breaks to go our way. So I necessarily believe it's more of the talking heads that get paid to talk and give their opinions that can move the needle. And he's right. Herb was 100% right about it's going to be Fox versus ESPN. And this, it just reminds me of politics. And no, we're not going to talk politics, but, this reminds me of Fox versus CNN. This is exactly what it is. Like, it's going to be, this network is about these brands of football teams from this conference, and this network is the total opposite of it. And they collide, and most of the time they're probably going to meet in the college football playoff. And difference between this and politics is it actually meets on the field of play, and those guys get to handle their business as opposed to fishy things going on. No more politics, Kev.
So I'd asked about, why when Fox props up the Big Ten, no one loses their mind and calls out the bias. You guys are freaking hypocrites because they're telling you what you want to hear. And Billy says, no, that's not the case. Fox doesn't control who gets in the playoff. ESPN does. That's also a very weird, overblown narrative of as far as, ESPN controls who gets, who has made the playoff that shouldn't have been in the playoff. By the way, if there was ever a time where the bias of ESPN could kick in to really stick it to Notre Dame, because ESPN doesn't really benefit from the Notre Dame brand itself because of their affiliation with NBC, they could easily. They have forgiven Notre Dame for not playing in the conference multiple times. They have forgiven them for not winning a conference championship and making the playoffs. Still, that is an overblown narrative that I think it needs to go away. I do not believe. Name a team that made the playoff that shouldn't have, because of the ESPN bias. And by the way, these are the same Buckeye fans, Kev, that tell you the ESPN bias is always out to get Ohio State, but yet Ohio State made the college football playoff in the very first college football playoff ever when they shouldn't have been in, but they were using Ohio State. They rewarded Ohio State to send a message to the Big 12 to get a conference title game. They did that. Let's see. Was there ESPN bias against Ohio State when they went ahead and put them in the damn college football playoff when they lost to Penn State, who would go on to win the Big Ten championship? Ohio State did not play in the Big Ten championship. They lost to the Big Ten champion and still put them in over the Big Ten champion. Stop with this weird narrative that the ESPN's out to get Ohio State, and they're going to continue that here. ESPN did not force Ohio State to lose by 30 to freaking Purdue. ESPN did not force Ohio State to lose by 30 against Iowa. JT Barrett throwing an interception on the very first pass of the game. That's what led to that.
Oh, man.
What'd I say? So
man, he's a coach in the NFL now. He's coaching with the Lions, man. Come on, man. Have some respect, man.
518-1410. Urban Meyer also asked about his thoughts on if the college football playoff would expand. But real quick, Billy Wright says on Facebook, nobody says ESPN is out against Ohio State, but you, Kenner. No, Billy, that's not the case at all. Your crybaby ass fan base does nothing but complain about how everyone is out to get Ohio State. Oh, Ohio State, they lose to Purdue and they get left out of the playoff, but Alabama can lose and they get in the playoff. Like, that is said constantly. That has been said constantly. I have no clue. Like, even when Ohio State lost to Clemson in the Fiesta Bowl years ago, the refs are out to get them. See, this is ESPN keeping Ohio State down. What? Maybe not you, Billy, but we deal with a ton of Ohio State fans. You may not be who I'm talking about here, but the majority of this fan base is obnoxious like that, where they always play the victim, even though they won't want to hold their own team accountable. Anyways, over it. Urban Meyer asked about the potential expansion of the college football playoff. Kev, here's what he had to say.
I've heard and been involved in many conversations about it. I don't think anyone has an idea. I think there is unanimous agreement that it needs to expand, because what's happened in the minute teams start getting out of the playoff run, players start sitting out, games become unimportant, and that's not good for the game of football. So more teams need to be involved. How they do that, and when do they do that? It's pure speculation, and I can't even go there right now. But I think it's going to be a minimum of 8. I think at some point it'll be 12. It'll be a 12-team playoff. How that looks and what conferences will be involved. You still have some great teams in the ACC, some great teams in the Big 12. I think it's all positioning right now. And then you got the X factors, Notre Dame. What does Notre Dame do?
That was Urban Meyer on earlier this afternoon with Dan Dockich on Dan Dockich's social media show, Don't At Me, of course, through his affiliation with Outkick. A lot of interesting things there, minimum of 8, potentially moves, into the 12 range. Right now, I don't think that this puts pressure to expand the playoff because there's still the ACC, there's still the Pac-12, there's still the Big 12, SEC, and Ohio State. I still think that intrigue is there. Kev, I actually thought about this the other day. Unless these conferences all combine and merge into one another, I don't see the playoff changing within the next couple of years, mainly because I think USC going to the Big Ten and UCLA going to the Big Ten and Texas and Oklahoma going to the Pac or to the SEC. I think that adds even more interesting storylines that are going to, speak to the urgency of the college football playoff. I don't think this helps expand it. I think it kind of keeps it as is for right now. The only way I see it expanding anytime soon is if the Pac-12 is eliminated and merges with another conference, and the Big 12 the same thing, that type of deal. Your thoughts on Urban Meyer's comments on Dan Dockett's show earlier today?
I agree with him 100%. We talked about this when I first started doing the show with you when we got to college football season. Thought expansion of the college football playoff is going to happen, and for the betterment of the game, for interest from coast to coast, from interest from north to south, east to west, because he's right. When teams lose that second game, it's up time to get ready for the NFL. Time to hit the transfer portal. If you keep more teams invested longer, you get more people still trying to play football. And once you're out, also, not only the players lose interest, but so do the programs. Once a team loses 2 games, coaches are immediately on the hot seat, or not even the hot seat. They're contemplating firing the coach. So if you keep teams invested longer throughout the season, you get more eyeballs longer throughout the season. So I'm with that 100%. And as far as the expansion of the playoff, we all know that's going to happen, and it's going to happen for a litany of reasons. One is going to be more money, duh. And then 2, like they want it. Like they want this to be the NFL. They want this to be the NFL so bad that they're expanding it to basically be the North versus South. So this is what they want, and this is what the powers that be want. And I honestly don't know if the Big Ten powers wanted this, but guess what? The SEC powers wanted it, and they're not going to be one up by them. So if they want to do it, then we're going to do it. They're going to always kind of try to one up each other. The SEC went and got Texas and Oklahoma. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get USC and UCLA and have California on lock to make our conference even better. So they're not going to stop, because when one does one thing, the other is going to do the next as well.
Well, I mean, I get the concept of, okay, you expand the playoff to 8, and then, right now only at 4. There's too many teams that have a loss in week 2 or 3, and then their season's done. But I don't think expanding it to 8 is all of a sudden going to. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of teams in college football Division I, and we're only going to add 4 more spots. I'm not advocating for more. I'm just saying you don't do it for the reason of, now more teams will have a shot. Let's be clear. Even if you expand to 8, the same amount of teams that had a realistic shot of making the playoff at 4 have the same realistic shot of making it at 8. You're either a good team or you're not. And I don't see a lot of multi-loss teams making an 8-team playoff as far as that's concerned. And if you're trying to argue that we need to expand it so we get more bad teams in the playoff, I don't think that's a good argument either. But I do think that it's going to expand because of money, as you talked about. Money's always, that's what makes the world go round. But at the end of the day, it is going to be a situation where, in my opinion, I think it's going to come down to it's going to have to be less conferences before they expand the playoff, I think. But I mean, there's a reason that if they were going to do it, every reason we say that they're going to expand the college football playoff, they had a chance to expand it now and they didn't. Why? They could have changed it now. Well, more teams would have been involved. Then why didn't they do it now? Oh, well, more money. Then why didn't they do it now? Look at all the money that's on the table as all these conferences are reworking deals. This would have been the time to do it. That's why, to me, I don't believe they're going to change it from 4 anytime soon, unless Fox absorbs the Big 12 and, the Big 10, of course, and they combine these conferences, and then we get down to Fox versus ESPN. At that point, then yes, it could be a mega playoff like we see in the NFL. But as of right now, every reason that people say that the playoff should change and expand, those reasons have existed for years. And every time that the committee or that those in the powers that be get together to change it, they don't. So I agree with all those reasons. There's no bad reasons out there. But this idea that, they have to do it because of money. They have to do it because more teams get involved. They have to do it because too many players are losing interest. Those have existed for years, and they continue to say, "No, we good. We're good at 4." 518-1410. More of the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash when we come back.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash.
Justin, you're awesome, baby.
Right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. WING 1410 Dayton. Dayton's ESPN Radio.
This radio commercial was made to convince you to stop speeding. We can't use siren sound effects on the radio, so we'll use other equally jarring sound effects to get your attention, like telling you that whether you drive a little over the speed limit or a lot, you can crash just the same. You could hurt yourself or worse, others.
I'm at the scene of the collision.
And the damage you cause will be beyond repair. See, we didn't have to use crash or siren sounds after all. Speeding catches up with you. Brought to you by NHTSA.
Summer is winding down, and Rob's Beer Barn is preparing for all your favorite fall beers and all other seasonal refreshments. That means Rob's Beer Barn has you covered for all your gatherings. At Rob's, you can find all the ice-cold refreshments you'll need: craft, imported, local, and seasonal beers, fine wines, snacks, and ice. And Rob's Beer Barn has apparel. For last-minute items, you can call, walk in, or drive through. Stop in and stock up today. Rob's Beer Barn on Indian Ripple Road at Darst, just a mile east of the Green. Rob's Beer Barn, just look for the beaver.
Get 11% off your outdoor price.
You're not going to go anywhere else. Lyric's Warehouse Outlet at 23 McOil Avenue, Dayton. Open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. Lyric's, continuing the tradition.
Justin Kinner, Kev Nash back with you here on Dayton's ESPN radio station 1410 Wing AM. Trotwood and Fairmont. It's our ESPN high school football game. It's our 1410 ESPN Radio high school football game of the week coming up this Friday night, 7 o'clock to kick off. Back-to-back weeks of Fairmont Firebirds on ESPN 1410 Wing. It's our first opportunity to see Trotwood this season. Excited for them and Jeff Graham and the squad again. So we'll have them coming up this Friday night. But how about some other Trotwood news, Kev? I found this interesting as well. A little bit of a surprise. Rocky Rockhold, the longtime head coach of the Trotwood Madison Rams boys basketball team, steps down, again responsible for the schools only state championship. So I found that to be for the boys basketball, of course, coming in, but kind of leaving, and it kind of caught a lot of people by surprise. Rocky, every year Trotwood, from a basketball standpoint, just one of the best high school teams locally here in the area. Him stepping down surprised some people. Did it surprise you?
Absolutely. It was out of nowhere. I actually saw it late. I didn't see it yesterday when the news broke, but I saw it this morning, and I hit up our good friend DJ Killer Kev. He's an alum of Trotwood, and he was blown away as well. And he was just nervous about what's going to happen this season on the basketball court.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what's all coming back. Obviously, from the football side of things, that's a team that's been young over the last couple of years. But and again, this is an article from the Dayton Daily News. Shout out to, of course, Jeff Gilbert again, giving him a shout out here. This is his article on Dayton Daily News. But Rocky Rockhold again resigning, from his boys basketball head coach position after a successful 11-year run that did include the school's only state championship. But this comes from, of course, Rocky Rockhold. This is his quote in the Dayton Daily News, Kev. There's no juicy details behind it or anything negative. I will always be a Ram at heart. So there's no scandal. There's no, behind the scenes issues, according to this article, that have led to his departure. But Rockhold, again, won over 300 games, and his most successful stretch with the Rams was that 3-year run that culminated back in 2019 with the Division II state championship at the Schottenstein Center in Columbus, Kev. I watched that. They had Amari Davis, who is now, he went to Green Bay in the Horizon League, transferred to Missouri, and now is transferred back to the Horizon League, is going to be playing at the Nutter Center this season with the Raiders. But Amari Davis was the number one player on that team where they won the state title in 2019. He was unbelievable, but that was a special team. They finished 28-2.
Yeah, man. People got to understand this, man. These coaches sacrifice a lot of their personal time and relationships with friends and family and everything like that. When you are a coach, you're a father figure to these young boys and girls and everything like that, and especially and women coaches as well. You're a parental figure, and you give of yourself and you take time away from your own family to be with this sports family as well. And sometimes there's a situation where, hey man, I've done all I can do. I've done a ton. I want to give back to my family, or I just don't want to do anything. People have that right as well. So, I wish them nothing but the best, and obviously wish the kids out there at Trotwood nothing but the best, and whoever's going to be the next coach out there.
Yeah, again, that season that they won the state title back in 2019 with Amari Davis, they beat Columbus South. I think it was like 77-73, but they were down late in that game. And that was the year that I had upset Coach Rockhold, who had reached out to me because he didn't like one of my takes I had on the air about Trotwood blowing teams out. Again, not blowing teams out, but they had won like by 90 or something like that on a few occasions that year. And I just thought that was a little unnecessary. So I made that comment on the air, and he reached out, and he wasn't rude. You know how some coaches, they're pissed off and they'll reach out and kind of call you. He wasn't rude. He just kind of explained himself. I responded back with, actually, you don't need to explain yourself. I'm some random boob on a radio show that you don't need to explain yourself to me. But everything he said about the reasons behind why they ran that program a certain way, I got to see it front and center when they won that state title in 2019, Kev, because they were tired, or Columbus South was tired late in that ball game. So I'm talking about the reason that you saw a lot of those blowouts is because no matter who was in, no matter what unit was in, yes, they had to press on late into games, but it was about making sure that second and third unit was about as battle tested and prepared, as the first unit. And that showed. That's why they won that state title in 19. For one, yes, because of the depth, but because no matter 1 through 12, every single one of those guys were in shape. But they were down by like 7-8 late in that game. They put that press on, and I'm watching Columbus South. Every single one of them players, hands on their hips, hands on their knees. They're leaned over. They can't breathe. They're gassed. Trotwood, Amari Davis, they put that press on, and turnover, forcing turnovers. No one on Trotwood's team out on the floor is they're not out of breath or anything. They're standing straight up. They got the look in their eye. Amari Davis led them to their first state championship. But I'll never forget that, because I remember sending him a note after saying, by the way, I get it now. This is why I talk about sports, and the people that know what they're doing actually are out coaching or playing. So congratulations to Coach Rockhold on a great career. He says in this article, Kev, that anytime, and again, Dayton Daily News, Jeff Gilbert, who wrote this article, and this quote comes from his article, Coach Rockhold says, anytime you can walk away and say we won a state championship and played in multiple Final Fours, that feels pretty good. The state championship is one thing that never goes away, especially because it was the school's first in basketball. It holds a special place for a lot of folks in Trotwood and will always hold a special place for me. You couldn't ask for a better group of guys to be around and coach. So again, shout out to Coach Rockhold. Congratulations on a great run, and we'll see what's next. But man, I'm curious who replaces him, Kev.
You.
Oh, yeah. No pressing. If we're up by 7, we're going to the bench. ELE. Everybody love everybody. How about pulling? I'm pulling for pulling. I would love to see Pullen come back. I remember growing up those Dunbar teams with Pullen. I would love to see Trotwood, get a guy like that. I think that'd be pretty fun.
I'm with it. I'm with it with everything, man. I love it. I love high school basketball and football and everything like that. I love that these coaches sacrifice so much of themselves to give back. And, the gratification comes from seeing the kids succeed. I know everything today is about winning titles and winning state championships and everything like that. But, these coaches see kids that go from can barely dribble with their dominant hand to being killers on the basketball court. And that's a product of hard work and hard coaching. And, Coach Rocco definitely coached those guys out there at Trotwood very hard.
Hashtag pulling for pulling.
Uh-oh.
Let's
starting.
Started.
It's starting already.
To Trotwood. That's what I want to see as far as that's concerned. How about that 19 team, Kev? I didn't realize they averaged 100 points a game.
Buckets?
That title team holds the state record for most points scored in a season and averaged 100 points a game.
100 points a game in 8-minute quarters.
Did they really average 100 points a game?
I have no idea.
I'm not saying Jeff Gilbert's wrong, but I mean, damn, 100 points a game in high school. I remember talking with Byers about that because, for me growing up, the best high school team I ever saw was LeBron's team, Akron St. Vincent St. Mary's, of course, during that stretch. And that was probably the most pub team in the history of Ohio high school basketball, at least. And everyone says that that's the best. But Byers is like, no, he believes his Roth team back in the day could have beat that Akron St. Vincent St. Mary team. He said that they averaged about 86. He said that Roth back in the day averaged 86 points a game, obviously, and no 3-point line. He goes, So it's one thing to have a 3-point line to kind of help, score points in bunches, but sounds like a very similar type team. They pressed a lot. They got up and down the floor, athletes everywhere. But yeah, 100 points a game. I didn't realize that.
100 points a game.
I was too busy focusing on them winning by 100. I didn't realize that they were putting up 100 every single night.
So
really?
8 times 4 is 32. So that's over 3 points a minute, right?
I guess. I mean, this can't be. I've never heard of a high school team averaging 100 a game, and I didn't realize that was going on in our own backyard. So interesting. But yeah, good for them. 100 points per game. That's a state record. That's the most points ever scored in a season. But that team was led by, Amari Davis, who's going to be playing his college basketball season coming up at the Nutter Center for Wright State. And that kid's always fascinated me too, Kev. I told you about his freshman year at Green Bay.
Yep.
He averaged 16 points per game as a freshman, but then you go and look at his stat line. I've never seen anything like this. You got to understand how the game's played today. If you're a guard, you have to have the ability to shoot the 3-point ball, or otherwise you're going to be kind of alienated and kind of blackballed off the floor a little bit. This dude he attempted 4 threes all season. He averaged 16 points per game, Kev, and averaged 16 points per game and only attempted 4 threes the entire season as a freshman when he was with Green Bay. I didn't pull up his stats with Missouri as far as that's concerned, but man, that's pretty impressive.
Take it to the rim. That's the D Wade type of game. Like, I'm going to the rim every time, and ones.
All right, it's the Justin Kinner Show. Again, one more time, if you're just tuning in, final send-off. Again, shout out to Rocky Rockhold, who calls it a career after a coaching career, at least with the Rams, stepping away after 11 seasons with Trotwood, won over 300 games during his time as head coach of the Rams, and, of course, brought them their very first ever boys state basketball championship back in 2019 when they beat Columbus South in the state championship over at the Schottenstein Center. I remember being there that game. It was an unbelievable atmosphere, and, man, That was a heck of a team. I just didn't realize they average 100 a game. So
a C note.
So there's that. All right, good stuff. 518-1410. That's the number to call and jump in on the conversation. We'll step away for a few moments. When we come back, I do have one more piece of audio to air from the Urban Meyer conversation from earlier today with Dan Dockett. She talked about the impact that name, image, and likeness has had on college athletics and where he sees it going. Plus, Kev Nash and I will give you our NFL bold predictions for the upcoming 2022 season. Don't go anywhere. More of the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash when we come back.
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 E.
Fire on all cylinders.
I wanted to know why some people who get COVID-19 get it so bad. I found out it may be because they have a high risk factor, such as heart disease, diabetes, being overweight, smoking, and asthma. Even if symptoms feel mild, these factors can increase your risk of COVID-19 turning severe. So if you're at high risk and test positive, there are things you can do, like asking your healthcare provider if an authorized oral treatment is right for you. Learn about an option at treatcovid19.com. This message is sponsored by Pfizer.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Don't put it off any longer. You know it's time. Time for a bathroom upgrade by Bath Creations. Bath Creations is a leader in bathroom renovations, providing the very best value in bath and shower remodeling and proudly made in the USA. With Bath Creations, you get a beautiful modern bathroom that's safe, comfortable, and affordable. Attention first responders, veterans, and active military. Save $500 off your purchase right now. Visit Poe Avenue in Dayton or online at mybathcreations.com. And upgrade today.
Polking Bowling Centers are your connection for family fun or a great night out with friends. Looking for something to do this fall? It's not too late to join a fun fall league, adult, youth, or mixed. Polking Bowling Centers has a fun program just for you, providing a safe and sanitized bowling environment. Visit polkingbowling.com or Facebook for the list of fall programs. Let the good times roll at Polking Lanes in Dayton on Wilmington Avenue, Polking Woodman Lanes in Kettering on Woodman Drive, and Polking Lane South in Centerville on Kingsridge Drive.
It's time again for A. Brown & Sons Nursery's annual stock reduction auction of high-quality nursery stock. Save hundreds to thousands of dollars. The auction starts promptly at 7:19 a.m. on Saturday, September 10th. If you don't have time to come out in the morning, come out in the afternoon. 3 auction rings run all day long. Brown's has shade trees, shrubs, evergreens, ornamentals, and perennials up for auction. Tell your friends and neighbors. Brown's Nursery is located just a half-mile north of Phillipsburg, Ohio, on State Route 49, just 4 miles north of I-70, exit 24. Make plans now to fill your entire landscaping needs at huge savings that can't be matched anywhere else. Visit brownsnursery.com and click on the auction link at the top of the homepage for all the details. Plan to attend the annual stock reduction auction at Brown's Nursery promptly at 7:19 a.m. on Saturday, September 10th. Rain or shine, delivery will be available. Details online at brownsnursery.com.
The IRS doesn't mess around. If they want your money, they'll take it. They can take your paycheck and bank accounts too, even threaten your home or business. Don't take on the IRS alone. If you owe back taxes, the smartest thing you can do is call Optima Tax Relief. The experts at Optima specialize in a powerful IRS tax assistance program called the Fresh Start Initiative. And their clients that qualify are saving thousands. One call starts the process to stop the demand letters, stop aggressive collection actions, and stop the IRS from targeting you. But don't delay. It's important to act now while you still have options. Optima is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. Optima has already resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Get your life back. For tax help you need, for tax help you can trust, call Optima now for your free consultation.
Call 800-364-9188. 800-364-9188. 800-364-9188.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
With Discover, you can redeem your rewards for cash in any amount at any time. Learn more at discover.com/redeem rewards. Terms apply.
Hey everybody, it's Stephen A. Smith, and everyone knows my feelings on Cowboys fans. But really, Justin Kenner, you're a Cowboys fan and a Browns fan? Good Lord have mercy. I don't know what the hell to do with y'all. I really don't.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Justin Kinner, Kev Nash back with you here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM, 518-1410. That's the number you can call and jump in on the conversation, of course. Excited to be hanging out with you here today on a Tuesday. We're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. Head to Facebook, search The Justin Kinner Show, like and subscribe and follow along. Of course, you can also jump on YouTube, ESPN Dayton's YouTube channel. You can subscribe right there and be a part of everything we do here Monday through Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. That's where you can also go back and catch some our previous high school football game of the weeks. Again, we're going to be at Trotwood this Friday night. The Firebirds and the Rams. Again, Fairmont and Trotwood is our week 2 ESPN Dayton high school football game of the week. Excited for that. We got a chance to see Fairmont last week when they were able to beat Alter 31-7. Trotwood went down. I forgot the score. I think it was like 31-16 or something against Winton Woods. So they open up a season with the loss, but they have a really good quarterback that I'm excited to get to see play. So 2 different styles of offense going up against one another, but really good players on both sides of the ball, both sides of the field, of course. So I'm really excited about that. Trotwood and Fairmont are ESPN Dayton high school football game of the week coming up this Friday night, 7 o'clock, the kickoff. So I guess, Kev, this comes out from Aaron Goldhammer, and it's interesting. He tweeted this out a little bit ago. That Jake Trotter, who covers the Browns for ESPN, says that he believes right now with Jacoby Brissett and these wide receivers that the Browns have a bottom 5 passing offense in the NFL heading into the 2022 season. Now, at the risk of people thinking that I'm about to become a homer and be upset at this, I'm here to tell you, I think the fact that he hasn't said the bottom 3 is quite impressive as well. I'd love to know. I mean, at this point, I guess it's because you have Amari Cooper that kind of helps balance that a little bit. But when you hear that, your thoughts are what? The Browns having a bottom 5 passing attack with the fact that you have, of course, Jacoby Brissett at quarterback.
Yeah, with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback and then only Amari Cooper. This is the thing that I was talking about. I thought that the Browns needed help at wide receiver more than they needed Jimmy Garoppolo. And that's why I will be dangling out a guy like Kareem Hunt to see who's willing to play. Who can I get at that other spot with Shorts, his ability to drop the ball. And we've absolutely heard nothing about Donovan Peoples-Jones. I mean, he hasn't played in the preseason either, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, I don't have a problem with Amari Cooper not playing in the preseason. He's a pretty well veteran receiver in this league. Not sure if he needs to be out there getting extra hits on his body. But Donovan Peoples-Jones, I mean, he was drafted in the 7th round out of Michigan, highly touted recruit coming out of high school, 5-star guy and all that type of stuff. But he hasn't done enough in my mind to say, hey, I don't get to play in the preseason. So I'm not sure if that's a coaching thing. I'm not sure if that's a Donovan Peoples-Jones thing. I think they need help at wide receiver more than they need help at the quarterback position.
Well, I mean, when people talk about whether the Browns should go get Jimmy Garoppolo, or don't get in your point of what's the point of going to get Jimmy Garoppolo when you don't have weapons right now? That should be the weapons should be the point of focus. I don't know why. I mean, I'm sorry, but too many moves are made in the NFL every day for them to say, well, we can only focus on quarterback. We can only focus on this. I mean, you look at the name of free agent wide receivers that are still available. It is just mind blowing to me how Andrew Berry and the front office of the Browns are just kind of sitting on their hands a little bit at this point, because the bottom line is you put too much into this roster to let a Deshaun Watson suspension just be why you're throwing it away, because you can't say, well, the suspension's why they're not going all in right now. Well, that's too damn bad. And as a Browns fan, you should be pissed because they knew that he was going to be suspended. The Browns knew that Deshaun Watson was going to be suspended. So if you knew he was going to be suspended and you're saying that, well, we're not going to go all in anymore because of his suspension, then why did you go all in to begin with? Did you go all in being arrogant, thinking that this wasn't going to happen? Like, you know what I mean? Like that's what's crazy to me. So to say, and I know what you are saying, I agree. It's like, well, what's the point? So to the point of this, if I guess an ESPN radio in Cleveland, or I guess sports radio in Cleveland today, a lot of listeners were led to this take from Jake Trotter saying that, him saying that they have a bottom 5 passing attack is why they need to go get Jimmy Garoppolo. And I agree with Jake Trotter's take that, well, even if you had Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't think that necessarily makes this a non-bottom 5 passing attack team in the National Football League, because it's, yes, maybe seen or viewed as a shot at, Jacoby Brissett as to why they're in the bottom 5 from a passing attack standpoint. But I think it speaks volumes about the weapons that they have from a wide receiver perspective. So getting Garoppolo or going out to get a Will Fuller, both of those should be the main focuses of the Browns. You are not strapped financially. You have $47 million. I think that's either the most or the second most cap space in the NFL right now as we sit here in mid-August, or past the mid-August point, as crazy as that sounds. So I think that as good a job as Andrew Berry has done in the past, and I think maybe he's being kind of handicapped right now, maybe the owners are saying no more, but the fact that you have come this far and you're going to let guys like Will Fuller, T.Y. Hilton, Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, and other guys who have proven to help these rosters, the fact that you're not going to go out and get any of these guys when they're available and you have $47 million cap space, you don't have to marry these guys long term. You know what I mean? It's literally a bring him in for one season. Let's hit the ground running. You tell a guy like Will Fuller, you tell a guy like T.Y. Hilton, yes, it's going to be a little dicey for the first, month and a half, 2 months of the season, but you're going to have in the backstretch, you're going to have Deshaun Watson. You'll be playing your best football at that point with Deshaun Watson coming in, which will be a tryout for you to get a bigger contract heading into next offseason. I have a hard time believing that Will Fuller, T.Y. Hilton, Cole Beasley, and all these guys do not want to go to Cleveland. I think Cleveland hasn't even asked, why do you come this far just to basically say, well, Deshaun's suspended, so we're done? You knew he was going to be suspended. If you knew he was going to be suspended, why did you go out and get Jadeveon Clowney? Why did you extend Kareem Hunt? Why did you do all these things? Why did you even get Amari Cooper? If you knew, because they could have waited on that Amari Cooper deal. They didn't need to take on that Amari Cooper deal and trade for him to take him on. All they had to do was go get Deshaun Watson, sit on this season knowing he would be suspended for a good chunk of time, and then invest heavily next year. But they invested heavily while going to get Deshaun Watson, and now they're using the Deshaun Watson suspension as a reason why they're just kind of sitting pat. I think it's ridiculous. I think that this is a dangerous decision by the front office. They've just made a lot of poor decisions, and I'm not here to defend them. I think that this is bad. You can add Will Fuller, Amari Cooper, and Will Fuller, and let's just say David Bell lives up to what he was doing in the voluntary camps earlier in the summer. all of a sudden, this is a pretty good wide receiving core. It's not elite. It's not up there with the Bengals, but you could score points, especially with that offensive line in this run game. I just don't get it. I think that, we're going to talk about the lack of weapons that the Ravens have. I think that the Browns, the only team worse than them is the Ravens at this point, weapons-wise. But damn, I'm really shocked that they have not been more aggressive, especially with Will Fuller out there. Will Fuller's only 28, Kev. Even if you should lock him up for a couple years while you have the opportunity, doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, he's the only guy out there on the free agent market that I would be trying to get if I was the Cleveland Browns, because all the other guys out there that are available, like Beasley, they're slot guys, and I don't necessarily think that they need more slot guys. They need more guys that can play on the outside. As far as the second thing that I thought about with that whole comment about them having a bottom 5 pass catcher or passing offense is David Njoku. You just got a nice deal in free agency, so you better be a top 4 tight end this upcoming season, because you talk a lot of noise like, oh, you as good as Travis Kelce. You talk like you good as George Kittle. It's time to play like that, because let's just say that it's a situation where Amari Cooper's the 1 and David Njoku is the 2, then okay, Donovan Peoples-Jones can be your 3rd receiving option. This isn't the old school days in football where the tight end strictly lines up on the line of scrimmage and he's basically a glorified blocker and sneaks out for a pass every once in a while. Like, this is a situation in the NFL where dudes are lining up all over the place. So you can line him up in the slot, but he's got to make sure he catches the ball. He's made a lot of explosive plays in his career, but he's dropped a lot of passes in his career too. So if I'm a Browns fan, I'm looking directly at David Njoku like, hey, now's the time, because not only did they invest in you, they invested in you twice. They drafted you, and then they paid you. So they're saying we got a bottom 5 passing attack in the league. You're the reason why we're not supposed to have that.
Yeah, again, last year, Will Fuller only played in 2 games. And, he, no touchdowns, of course, being out all of last year. But back the last time he played, Kev, in Houston, he had 880 receiving yards. He had 8 touchdowns on the season. He's not coming in to be the number 1. That's Amari Cooper. But Amari Cooper and Will Fuller, that's a heck of a duo. Is that Jamar Chase and T. Higgins? No, it's not. But it's also not a duo that you have to be ashamed of either. You could score points with those two, especially with the likes of Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, especially with having Donovan Peoples-Jones, if he does live up to those expectations, having David Njoku, of course, that offensive line. No damn excuse whatsoever. I'm not arguing at all. I don't have an issue at all with what Jake Trotter had to say about the Browns having a bottom 5 passing offense with Jacoby Brissett. You could argue that even Deshaun Watson doesn't make this a significantly better passing attack. I think that they're being very lazy with how they're approaching this. Will Fuller needs to be, a guy that they target aggressively at the end of the day. Adam Selzer on Facebook, he says Jake Trotter is 100% spot on. The Browns passing game is going to struggle if they do not get help before the season starts. And I don't know what they're waiting on. I have no clue what they're waiting on. I understood at the beginning of, okay, maybe they're just waiting on the outcome of the suspension of Deshaun Watson, as far as that's concerned. Well, that's been out for over a week now, and they've made no moves. They haven't, there was the rumblings of Garoppolo. Maybe they sign him if he hits the free agent market, if he's cut by the Niners. But I'm getting the vibe based on after the preseason game, Kev, and the way that the front office and Andrew Berry keeps talking about Jacoby Brissett, I don't even think that if Jimmy Garoppolo is available, that they're even going to go after him to begin with. That's how highly they're talking of Jacoby Brissett, trying to sell that to the media.
Absolutely. It seems like Jacoby Brissett's going to be the starting quarterback for the first 11 games for the Cleveland Browns. My question is, if the Browns are bottom 5, who are the other 4? I guess we already know the Bears are in that list. Who else would be down there?
He didn't put out a list or anything. He just said, they're a bottom 5 passing attack. But the Bears, the Patriots, I would put the Patriots right there. I think the Browns have better weapons than the Patriots. What's the Lions situation like?
Well, he's not playing Jameson Williams.
So,
he's not playing the first 6 weeks of the season, I believe.
I'd say, look, the Browns, I'd take their weapons right now over the Packers. I would take them over Houston. I would take them. Again, this isn't bragging. This is kind of sad, actually. I mean, the Browns passing attack, they're not as bad as the Packers' weapons. But again, the passing attack includes
the trigger man.
Rodgers.
The trigger man at the Packers helps a little bit.
But maybe, we'll find out. Some of these teams, Seattle, well, they have Metcalf, so no. But I mean, it's kind of equal with them a little bit because of the fact that you have a very good wide receiver like the Browns do in Cooper, but you have a very average to below average quarterback as far as Seattle's position is concerned. So who knows what's going to happen or whatever. But ESPN did put out a position group rankings for all of 2022, Kev. And, from a quarterback's perspective, the Cleveland Browns, they come in, and I'm assuming that this is with Deshaun Watson. I'm not sure what the situation here is and how they were able to evaluate Cleveland in this situation. But the Green Bay Packers, according to ESPN Plus's position group rankings for 2022, the Green Bay Packers they come in at number 1 on the QB quarterback rankings list as far as that's concerned. Kansas City 2, Tampa 3. Now, I don't know if this is the starting quarterback or if it's the quarterback room as a whole, but nonetheless, Cincinnati comes in at number 7, and the Chargers come in at number 6. The Rams come in at 5, Buffalo 4, Tampa 3. I mean, I think and the Browns come in at number 17. Now,
Green Bay number 1.
As far as the quarterback's concerned, yep.
Oh, okay. Okay. So not like the quarterback and receivers, just quarterback.
So that was the of course, the quarterback. And now you go down to, of course, the wide receivers for where we're at right now.
Okay.
And real quick, since we're here, the running backs, obviously Cleveland comes in at number 1. Cleveland, the Colts, and the Vikings all come in 1, 2, and 3 as far as the running back room is concerned. Whereas the Bengals come in at number 14 with Mixon as far as that's concerned. Okay, wide receivers. So the Cincinnati Bengals come in at number 1. I don't think that surprises anybody. And this is the ESPN Plus NFL position rankings. As far as wide receivers, the Bengals have the number 1 receiving core in football. No surprise there. The Buccaneers come in at 2. The Dolphins come in at 3. The Cardinals come in at 4. So you keep going down, and Cleveland's at 27. So the teams that are worse than them from a wide receiver standpoint, Kev, Houston, as we talked about, the Bears, the Packers, the Falcons, and Baltimore. Baltimore has the worst wide receiving crew in all of football, according to this position rankings list.
Sounds about right. Yeah, I mean, considering everything that the Ravens are doing this offseason, they're going back to, smash mouth, play action, deep shots, as opposed to, control passing game, everything like that. They're going to be using a lot of 2 tight end sets and everything like that, trying to sound like they're going to the Pats when they had Aaron Hernandez and Gronk. That's the type of style that it looks like the Ravens are going towards this upcoming season. But yeah, I mean, I think it's evident that the Bears are absolutely the worst.
Matthew Gaines says the Browns also have a bottom 3 ownership. Look, you don't have to like the ownership decisions, but I don't think the Browns have the worst ownership in football. There are ownership groups who have shown zero interest in bettering their ball clubs. Cleveland has made they've almost been too aggressive in trying to better their ball club. I don't think the Browns have a bottom 5 ownership in the NFL. For one, they don't have to sell naming rights just to be able to afford their quarterback. So let's just be clear on that before you start taking shots at the Cleveland Browns. Are the Haslam's jokes? Yes, they took gas stations and run them into the ground and went bankrupt because of that. But you know what? They came out richer on the other side somehow. So you know what? I'll take someone who has money as as my team's owner, as opposed to someone who has to sell naming rights just to be able to pay their quarterback. What'd I say? Spitting truth. People don't like the truth. I'm just saying. Bottom 3 ownership. Okay. Bottom 3 ownership. If you say so. I don't think they're great, but they ain't bottom 3 as far as that's concerned. I continue to go down this list quick again, the NFL position. What about tight end, Kev? Baltimore comes in at number 1.
Yeah.
No surprise there. But the Browns, let's see. The Browns come in at number 17 as far as that's concerned. And the Bengals come in at number 22.
Who is their tight end? Because old guy, Uzama, he went to the Jets, right?
So we're talking sample here. I mean, so that's kind of where it comes down to with him.
Moss's son.
The dirty player. what a dirty player he is. Going for the knees.
I just set you up too good for that one.
Call him DP, dirty player. It is what it is. So again, they talk about, the Baltimore Ravens have the best tight end group in football. But this is the unit to watch the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland coach Kevin Stefanski makes heavy use of multiple tight end sets, of course, talking about how he's done that with David Njoku and Austin Hooper. But Njoku, a 2017 first-round pick, they just talk about how the growth of him. But Harrison Bryant is also going to get a lot of attention, too. I think that the Browns, the reason that they could find themselves in a pickle at the end of the year is I really like Harrison Bryant, and I think it could be a situation where Harrison Bryant's performance could be I think he could produce more than David Njoku. And at the end of the year, the Browns might find themselves in a good situation as far as a tight end's concerned, but they may have paid the wrong guy. Who knows what's going to happen as far as that's concerned. But I did find that very interesting. I'm just very interested in this. Interior defensive lines. The Cincinnati Bengals, Kev, with this one. Where do they come in at? I'm still searching for this one. They come in at number 10. As far as that goes, the Browns have the worst interior defensive line in the NFL.
I mean, it's the preseason, but the Philadelphia Eagles were gashing them, and they got Togiai, former Buckeye, holding down the middle and everything like that. And that's what people got to understand. We're talking about defensive tackles, not defensive ends. So obviously, Myles Garrett is a defensive end and everything like that. So it kind of makes sense.
Let's see what that's why you have Ndamukong Suh and big dudes like that out there still. Like, again, the Browns have $47 million in cap space. And the fact that, I get why, your team's strapped for cash. So I get why the teams that are strapped for cash, Kev, I can understand why, they would love to plug this. They would love to address this. These guys that are free agents, Kev, they're not expecting long-term contracts. You think Will Fuller is expecting someone to call and offer him a 2 to 3 year deal? No, he knows he's probably going to be signed for a year.
Right.
So why would the Browns not look to go that route? It's beyond me. They know that Will Fuller's only expecting a 1 year deal. You look at Ndamukong Suh. He's not expecting a long-term deal. He's expecting a 1-term deal, like he's been signing with the Bucs the last couple of years. It just doesn't make any sense. Cleveland, you have a chance here to at least have a puncher's chance when it's all said and done, and they're their own worst enemies at this point. Very frustrating as far as why they're sitting on it here today.
Look in there.
More of the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash when we come back.
Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash right here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
Get ready, because here they come. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's Beatlemania all over again with a Fab Four, the ultimate tribute
joint pain with no side effects and no downtime. Call QC Connects now for a free consultation. 937-936-0325. 937-936-0325.
If you're looking to obtain a quality education at a low price, look no further than Clark State. With over 160 degrees and certificates available, Clark State has a path for you to reach your goals. Our tuition rates are one of the lowest in Ohio, so getting that degree is easier than ever without breaking the bank. For more information about Clark State, visit us at www.clarkstate.edu.
KFC's $5 mac and cheese bowls. For a limited time, get a big bowl of mac, cheese, and chicken for just $5. Available in classic or spicy. Order now on the app or KFC.com. That's finger-licking good.
The Trotwood Rams, the Fairmont Firebirds. It's the ESPN Dayton High School Football Game of the Week. Don't miss the biggest game in the Miami Valley this Friday night at 7 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio and online at wingam.com.
All right, welcome back. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. How about the run recently by Albert Pujols? In his last 5 games, 9 for 16, 5 home runs, 11 RBIs. I'll take Pujols over Votto any day of the week. Not a Votto guy, in case y'all didn't know that. But,
No.
you know, at least the Cardinals are getting to witness the farewell of a player who's still playing at a high level, to where we always get excited every time Joey Votto chokes up on the bat a little more and tries to convince you that he can still hit a baseball. Anyways. So, yeah, back to, again, a response. This comes from Matthew Gaines again a little bit ago. Matthew Gaines said the Browns have a bottom 3 ownership group. I said that's just not true. I don't believe that's the case at all. I look at the bottom line is the Cleveland Browns front ownership. Have they made mistakes? Yes. In fact, could name a perfect ownership group that's out there right now. I'll wait. There's not a perfect ownership group out there. Hell, even Robert Kraft, with all the stuff that they've gotten involved in off the field, that's been a bad look for them. And with all the cheating scandals and everything that's gone on since Tom Brady's left, they haven't looked as strong as an organization. That doesn't mean they don't have good ownership. I'm just saying it's like there's not a perfect ownership out there that everything continues to go. The Steelers, who, no offense, Kev, I think is still a front office that just gets away with a lot more as far as, like, you know, underachieving greatly more times than not and making bad decisions, and no one's still, oh, it's the Steeler way. Oh, you know, we're not going to rebuild. We're just going to continue winning 7, 8, 9 games a year, picking in the middle of the draft, having a strong, defense, but not having, an elite offense because we're not willing to switch. I mean, them not switching over to their quarterback Pickett yet is still mind-boggling to me, but that's a conversation for later. The point is, there's no strong ownership group out there right now as far as making all of the right decisions. It's all cyclical. But as far as I'm concerned, the Cleveland Browns, they have an ownership group that I will take over, I'd say, probably 85 to 90% of ownership groups in football, including the ownership group that's an hour south of here, mainly because I'll take an owner with money any day of the week. And I'm sorry, you can have an owner that tries to make the right decisions, but without money has to do a lot of weird things to be able to afford to pay his quarterback, like after nowhere selling the naming rights to a stadium. Like, I'm not saying Mike Brown is god-awful, but I'm just saying I'll take an ownership group that doesn't have to sell naming rights to be able to afford a roster in today's day and age. So that's kind of where I'm at as far as that's concerned with that. And plus the Haslams. Oh, so in real quick, Kev, Matthew Gaines also comes at me and says, so the Haslams don't suck because they have money, but then you complain because they aren't spending it. They're spending a lot of it. I'm criticizing them because they're not going out and getting players to add to this roster, but this roster is a pretty damn good roster. The wide receiving core right now taking a lot of heat, but if they come out and they mesh and they play well, is anyone going to say, oh man, the Haslams, they know what they're doing? No, I probably won't say that either, but they feel pretty confident. Andrew Berry and company feels pretty confident in it, but I'm going to be pissed off if they miss the playoffs because of it. The other thing, just because you criticize something on your team doesn't mean that you are saying that that ownership is horrible or that player is horrible. There were things about Baker that I would complain about all the time. I didn't think he was horrible. Just pointing it out. I don't think the Haslams are perfect. They're definitely not bottom 3 in ownership groups in the NFL. That's for sure. Look at the Chicago Bears right now. That seems to be a train wreck. I'd much rather be in Cleveland's situation than that. I'd much rather be in Cleveland's situation than having to, sell naming rights to be able to afford a quarterback. Like, let's be clear. Haslam's, they're a couple boobs. I get that, but dang, sit there saying they're bottom three. Not going to go there.
I'm not even jumping to that conversation.
Why? Because jump into any conversation.
That's between you and the Bengals fans. Like, part of the reason, like, the Bengals ownership seems to be a tad cheap, and I don't think they want to quote unquote spend their own money on Joe Burrow. So they found another revenue income to said pay for it. Seems a bit cheap. But
I don't think it's just what they have. It's limited resources because he's not. I mean, a lot of these owners have other businesses. Like with Mike Brown, this is his business. What money he makes comes from this team. So it's not like he's able to pull billions from other, channels of businesses that he's involved in.
But it's the same way with the Lakers. Like when they changed the naming rights from the Staples Center to the Crypto Center and everything like that. When you're a family-run business like the Cincinnati Bengals and the Los Angeles Lakers, like, you do things that others won't do or do it a little earlier. But in the Bengals case, they did it later, that's the weird part for me. Like, everything's for sale. Like, I don't understand why this was always like a big thing with the naming rights to stadiums or having patches on jerseys and everything like that. No, we can't do that. We're not NASCAR. Why not? Why not? What's the big deal? Guess what? We don't even pay it any attention anymore. You got logos on jerseys anyway. You got whoever made the logo jersey on there. You think Nike about to have you having jerseys out here without the swoosh on them? Get out of here, man. So these places and organizations that try to hang on to this veil of like, well, we're going to do it our way, and this is the way we've always done it. Times change. And if you're going to have another revenue coming in, you might as well sell everything. We work in radio. We know that. We sell the top of the hour ID. We about to sell these microphones.
Or we don't sell anything at all.
See, that's exactly why I didn't want to say nothing. Because I knew that was going to come up.
You're right. Everything's sold. Everything. Anyway, how about this? NASCAR has agreed to a first-of-its-kind deal with the University of Alabama to become an official partner of Crimson Tide Athletics. The one-year deal is the first time NASCAR has sponsored a collegiate athletic department. Look, I haven't read into the background of this, of what this, I mean, is this, it's one of those things where NASCAR obviously sponsoring Alabama, but this really, obviously it's a revenue for Alabama, but this is more of a prop for NASCAR than the other way around. NASCAR is not propping up Alabama. Alabama's propping up NASCAR. That's how you know you're a bum professional sport, that you have to use a college team to be able to. I don't know what
I gotta read this. I gotta read this because I got more questions than opinions. Because if this is a situation kind of like how Michigan State's basketball team is, what is they? Or they like Rocket Mortgage, Michigan State Spartans. Like that's how you have to announce them now as officially. Is that type of situation?
I guess kind of like we talked about, like Michigan State and stuff like that. Like with that, this comes out on Twitter, just saying, they found a post of, talking about, call me a hypocrite because the Browns do First Energy Stadium. Folks, you really need, if you were going to get upset because I call out your team for something that they have even admitted to being the case, having to sell the naming rights of their organization because they've taken on multiple revenue generating streams to be able to have money in the back end. Well, let's be clear. They've said that themselves. That's not a hot take on my end. On the flip side, yes, the Browns do have their stadium, obviously named, of course, in First Energy Stadium, but they didn't need to do that so they could afford to pay their players. The Bengals do. That's just the reality of it. Their ownership told you as much. So that's the situation as we currently sit here right now. But it is what it is. But 518-1410, 518-1410, that's the number to call and jump in on the conversation. There we go. So Mark Smith got his panties all in a bunch. He says, sell a mic and shut Kinner up. I'm sorry. What have I said that's wrong, Mark? What have I said that's wrong? Sell a mic and shut Kinner up. That ain't going to work. Kev, so Bengals fans, of course, they got their little thong panties all in a bunch now because, someone tweeted out and showed that the Browns also have their stadium named as well. And again, I'm not saying that teams who have to have naming rights to their stadium that means they're bad. I don't know. The Browns didn't need to sell the naming rights to their stadium to have enough money to afford to pay players. The Bengals admitted as much. I mean, Mike Braven said that they've taken on multiple revenue streams to be able to prepare to, be able to invest more into the team down the stretch, including the contracts of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and others. Like, that's not a hot take. That's not an opinion. That's a damn fact that came out of the mouth of Mike Brown. These fans, the season must be approaching because the IQ of some of these people is just continuing to pop out. It just doesn't make any damn sense.
The season is here because you are getting redder by the second. Shouts out to our listener, Eric, who had to remind me to remind you that the Steelers haven't just won 7 games in over 15 years. Shouts out to Eric. He's working right now, listening to the show.
So, yeah. Will on Facebook says, Justin, NASCAR gets their pit crew guys from college athletes like Bama. Those pit crew guys are drunk bubbas.
I don't know that. I am reading the article right now, so I'm more informed.
I hope drunk bubbas isn't a term that I'm not allowed to say. I have no clue. I feel like one of the youngins are trying to get the best of me. I have no idea. The Haslams, according to some guy on Facebook, I believe the Haslams sold naming rights at First Energy as soon as they bought the team. That's Haslam just knowing business. Mike Brown had some weird sense of pride he had to swallow because he knew he had to pay Burrow. Exactly.
Should have been sold it. Should have been sold it. Like, for what? Like, you don't need to just sell it when you get a good quarterback. You could have been banking more money this whole time.
Yeah, like, why did you need to get Joe Burrow to sell your naming rights? Like, selling the naming rights should have been if I'm working anywhere around Mike Brown, I'm like, why now? I mean, this revenue stream that's coming in, like, you wait till we're 2 years into this contract with some of these significant players. And by the way, they're going to be able to afford them. They'll be just fine. It's not like they're, rattling a can on the corner of the street, begging
collecting
for
donations.
Money. You know what I mean? But like, it's just one of those things where, like, that's why everyone's like, man, Mike Brown, he's selling the naming rights. He knows what he's doing. That's not the question you should be asking. You should be asking the question, why now? Why now is he doing it? Anyways, wasn't trying to go here with it. Y'all started it. You're the ones that started taking shots at me. So I like a child, you started it. I go back. That's just the reality of it, as far as I'm concerned. But Mark Smith said, thank God for football's back. Now your show will be relevant again.
Hey, I'm on this show too.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you for Mark Smith. Hey, thank you for tuning in, even if it's just for a couple months of the year. That's totally fine. David Shaw says, should OSU sell the naming rights to the shoe, or is that different because it's college?
Sell it.
If you could get $1 from it, sell it. If you can get $1 from it, sell it.
That whole thing is flown the coop, man. Like, it is what it is. I have no problem with it at all.
It's Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 WING, 518-1410. Is this Jesse?
It is.
What up, Jesse?
What's going on, fellas?
Yo.
Hey, I apologize for the foul words yesterday about you. That was just me joking, just having a good time.
No, I'm used to you being an a-hole when you call in. Don't worry, you're fine.
Thank you.
You say mean things all the time. I'm just saying, like, it's not. I don't know why you apologize. I know you're about to do it again here, so let's just get to it.
Well, I'm good. You were talking about NASCAR, as I've told you before. I'm a race car driver, and you're talking about the naming rights and the sponsorship with NASCAR. But if you win a NASCAR race, you win $3 million. If you lose a NASCAR race, you get $100,000. So why wouldn't you put your name on that? I mean, how is that not good publicity?
No, I'm not against it. I found it was just unique. I've never heard of this type of marketing for people heard what I said about. Actually, it was just me repeating what Mike Brown had said about his team, about the reason that this was a business avenue that they started to venture down, of course, for planning ahead for certain things. And then people got defensive and said, well, your team has naming rights. Yes, they do. Everyone does. But it's also a known fact that Mike Brown's one of the poorest owners in football. That's not a shot. That's the reality of it. As far as NASCAR is concerned,
billionaire.
NASCAR survives because of all of the sponsorships, and they plaster every logo they can on any open space on a car that they can. So no, I get it. I don't have an issue with it. I just thought it was interesting is all.
You like to blast on good old hillbillies like me that are just trying to go out there and make some coin, have a little fun. I mean, have a little respect for NASCAR, man. They do their job. They They run in circles and they make millions of dollars. I don't think something to put down.
That's true. I mean, the sport did find a way to just, hey, we're going to drive in circles and we're going to make millions of dollars doing it. And actually, you guys are pretty, you hillbillies are pretty smart, actually. Hey, no, real quick, Jesse, while you are here, explain this sponsorship. Who does it benefit more? Alabama or NASCAR? In all seriousness, I'm just curious because we're trying to figure out, huh? And it's just a revenue stream for Alabama?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Jesse, thanks for not taking any shots. I feel like you're about to, though.
I'll get off there. I hope you always have a good night.
Oh, okay. Well, take care, Jesse. See? When I think that he is about to, be mean, he's fine. And then when I think he's being cool, then I never know. I'm always on edge when he calls in because you never know what he's going to say.
So according to this is the weird part about this, what I'm reading right now, is it's for 1 year. Why would you only do 1 year? You want to do 2 years to see if all right, man, this thing is working or anything like that. So apparently the grants rights NASCAR to use Alabama's IP. So basically logos and all that type of stuff, use their on the digital media side as well as merchandise. So they're going to be able to print Alabama stuff on NASCAR stuff, flags and things of that nature.
So I mean, yeah, but it caught my attention is all. I thought that was because it tied into what we're talking about with that. So
NASCAR will run radio spots as well, hang banners and signage at Tuscaloosa's games.
All right. There you go. Real quick. So this was tweeted into the show that LOL, someone's mad that they don't have a quarterback. No, the Browns do have a quarterback. I don't know what does that mean? They don't have a quarterback. They have a quarterback. He's suspended, but they have a quarterback. I don't understand what that means. I mean, what? Is that a shot? I mean, unless they're talking about Kevin. Yeah, Kevin, I agree. Kevin does not have a quarterback.
We'll see.
No, we know.
We'll see.
I mean, just because you have a guy that can maybe throw the ball for maybe 200 yards here and there and all that, or he can make a play with his legs. The last place Steelers, baby.
I'll take that bet.
Having flashbacks to
Yeah. I got the video still if you want to take a look at it.
Let's see. So if my Browns are going to be out of it this year, who am I going to root for? Might be a Ravens fan.
No, you should root for your other team, the Cowboys.
No, they suck too.
Oh, you get a third team.
I need a third team.
You're going to be rooting for the entire league by the time you're 40.
Any team that the Bengals are playing, I'm going to buy a jersey for every team that the Bengals have on their schedule this year.
Lord.
I'm just saying. I haven't felt this way in a while. I'm all irritated today.
No.
I don't know what my deal is. Oh, Jesse Bates, he's such a great leader. Look at him coming back. No, he came back because of the money.
You acting like somebody's been blowing up your phone, asking you for a meeting or something.
Oh, you know how you know? By the way, just so you know how I know your team's finishing in last? Because David Shaw just said the Steelers will not, in all capital letters, finish last in the division.
Thanks for the jinx, man.
So there you have it. You heard it here first, folks. The Steelers, last place in the AFC North. We'll be right back. 518-1410. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash.